you know if you have intuition? And when you do have intuition, do you trust it? I am Denise Duran, Certified Fearless Life Coach, trainer, and faculty at the Fearless Living Institute. And intuition it's something that we're born with. And each one of us have it. And yet it's something that, for the most part, most of my clients will ask me, well, how do you know when to listen to intuition? How do you know when it's speaking up? And I have a really simple way of telling that I'm going to tell you about in a minute. And I'm just going to share a couple of experiences in my life that were completely the result of intuition. The first one is back when I was 17 years old, and it was 2 days before my high school graduation. And I had just gotten word from the counselor that I would not be graduating with my class. And I was walking around the campus thinking, how am I going to tell my parents this? And something inside of me said, I walked by by one of my teacher's rooms, and his name was Mr. Renner. And I just thought, I'm just going to go over to his room. I don't know why. I don't know what called me to it. I just felt it. Go to Mr. Renner's classroom. So I did. He had an open period. And I said, do you need any papers that need grading? And he says, yeah, sure, come on in. So I went in, sat down, and he gave me a pile of papers to grade. And he looks over at me and says, so are you excited to graduate? And he was the first person I said, I'm not graduating. And he said, well, there's always summer school. And I said, yeah. And then I looked to my right and I saw a newspaper. It was actually the section that had word puzzles on it. And I noticed that there was this one called the Jumble, and it wasn't completed. And I looked at that and I looked at Mr. Renner and I said, are you going to do that puzzle? And he said, nah, I'm not going to do that. And I asked, could I? And he said, yeah, sure. And so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, puzzle, done. And he looked at me and he said, did you just do that? And I said, yeah. Did you already do that one today? No. He said, how come you're not graduating? And I said, I'm 2.5 credits shy in PE. He said, give me your paper. I'll sign it for you. And I got to graduate. Mr. Renner was also a tennis coach. I didn't think about any of that. I had no strategy. I just followed my intuition. I didn't argue with it. I just allowed it. So that's one story. Another story was when I knew I wanted to become more deeply certain. I wanted more education for coaching, and I was looking for coaching. I was looking for a coaching school, and I was doing all sorts of research, but nothing was resonating with me. And then one day when I was doing some exercising, I wanted a new podcast to listen to. And I said, I wonder what kind of coaching podcasts there are. And lo and behold, Master Coach Mindset came up with Rhonda Britton. Rhonda Britton, how do I know that name? I know that name. So I did a little Google search. And there she was, Rhonda Britton, a face that I was so familiar with because I used to watch a show called Starting Over, religiously when my little ones were babies. That was my reward for when they took a nap, was to watch Starting Over. And I was like, oh, wow. Well, let's listen to what this podcast is. And within 5 minutes, of me listening to that podcast, I said, this is the direction I'm supposed to go. I looked up her coach. I didn't know she had a coaching school, Fearless Living Institute. And that was it. I knew it. It was everything in my soul was like, oh yeah, this is what you're supposed to do. So intuition will provide these threads, if you will. It's like these little sparks. And as Rhonda talks about it in Change Your Life in 30 Days, intuition, it doesn't give us the whole story. It just gives us the next step. Intuition didn't tell me that I was going to be able to graduate with my class when I was a senior. It just said, well, go see Mr. Renner. And I just did it. And intuition didn't say, oh, this is going to be a very comprehensive and intensive program. It just said, see if there's any coaching podcasts. It just gives us the next step. And that's intuition. So I shared with you what I tell my clients. And what I share with my clients about intuition, how you can tell if it's intuition. Intuition is just a flash and a surge of energy, if you will. It's just whatever it is for you, it's just a knowing. There is something inside that just says, oh, do this. So even though it's a surge, it's also very calm. It's very steady. It's very centered. And the other thing about intuition, it doesn't have to fight for your attention. Fear, on the other hand, fear is a dog with a bone. Fear won't let up. Fear will say, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. You don't want to do this. Look what happened last time. Look what happened to those people. It's gonna throw evidence. It's gonna throw all sorts of stories your way to dissuade you from whatever it is, where that moment of clarity, because that's what it sort of feels like. It's like this moment of clarity. And it's brief. It's like a split second. And it's up to us to listen or not listen. So intuition, calm, reliable, gives us the next step. And there's a sense of peace with it. Fear, dog with a bone. It won't be quiet. Intuition, it's a whisper. That's it. So think about times when you've listened to your intuition. Because intuition is our connection to a greater energy, whether you want to call it God, whether you want to call it Christ, whether you want to call it universal light, whatever it is, whatever that is for you, that's where intuition comes from. And it's designed for your highest good. And it may seem absolutely nutty, or it may seem like, where in the world did that come from? Well, it came from somewhere above. And if you choose to listen, it will take you on the next step. So, are you willing to be fearless and listen to your intuition? Let's take a look at our card. I'm just going to do one. When my intent is clear, look at that heart, look at that sun, look at that all of that. When my intent is clear, my desires can be fulfilled. That's intuition. When intuition is clarity. That's what it is. It's clarity. So when your intent is clear and you have the space to hear and the space to listen, intuition will allow for every desire to be fulfilled. So until then, listen to your intuition, give it a shot, be attentive, and see what happens. That's being fearless.